Swoohoo YouTube, SwooCube here, and today we are talking Hondo Onaka in another edition of the Starter Deck BattleBox Deck Tech series. These decks are decks that I have designed to play well with the starter decks from FFG. Both the Luke and Vader starters from set 1 and the Moff Gideon and Mando starters from set 2. These decks that I have built, if you check my channel, I'm assuming this is probably not the first one you've seen, but if it is, I have many, many more decks like this that are designed at similar power levels, built to be very flavorful and have a lot of replayability. The idea is that you have a big box of these decks and can grab 2 or 4 or however many you want for the evening and sit down and have a good game between just about any 2 of them. They're not all 100% 50-50 evenly balanced because matchups exist, but the idea is that every deck has a shot at least against every other deck. I try to keep things within a 60-40 kind of spread. And some decks obviously are much more balanced than others, like the starter decks themselves, which are really a work of art, in my opinion. And I'm going to make a video specifically about the set 2 starter decks here sometime soon once I exhaust my supply of starter deck tech videos. We are not quite at the end. I've got a few more left. So without further ado, Hondo Onaka, the Smuggler-in-Chief. When you play a smuggle card, when you smuggle a card with Hondo on the field or in the leader zone, you get an experience token wherever you want. It's a very flexible ability. It's quite strong, and I absolutely love this deck. When Hondo flips, he becomes a 3/7 with raid 1, so he attacks for 4. And he has the same ability as his other side. So a 6 resource unit, kind of slow, but certainly has the stats. And really, it's all about the smuggle. And as you can imagine, this deck is packed full of smuggle cards. The base is Spice Mine, so it is a green-red base, or a green-red deck. I believe the first green-red deck I've actually ever built. The Vader deck is green-red, but I don't think I've actually designed a green-red deck outside of that yet. So, yeah, I have not. This is pretty cool. Anywho, starting with the ground units, we have 3 Guavian Antagonizers. Nice little evasive guy. Followed by 3 Reckless Gunslingers. The first of our smuggle targets, and what I have generally done with this deck is, because smuggle itself is so good, it's just pure card advantage, it's flexibility, it's all the things you want in a card game. I found if I just 3-of'd every single smuggle card, Hondo is too good. So the 3-ofs are the smuggle cards that are a little bit flimsier, a little bit weaker, and then I have some other ones as 2-ofs and 1-ofs that are a little bit better, like the Privateer Crew, which is really a closet 6-drop. But quite good, coming out as a 5/5 for 6, or playable as a 2/2. Also have 2 Ruthless Assassins, great target to get those experience tokens on. So that's it for the turn 1 plays. We have an Ardent Sympathizer from set 1, as well as 2 Homestead Militias. Get a couple Sentinels in there. And 3 Warbird Stowaways. Another weaker Sentinel unit, or weaker Smuggle unit, excuse me. But with an experience counter on it, can be quite the threat out of the resource row. A lone Crosshair, kind of an interesting choice. A little bit of a flavor stretch, though Hondo was certainly active during the time that Crosshair was out and about, so they may have crossed paths at some point that we don't yet know about. But Crosshair is just such a great target for the experience tokens from Hondo's smuggle ability that I really enjoyed it in the deck and ended up staying. Also, 1 Enterprising Lackeys. This is kind of a splash because it's a double green card, so if you're playing it smuggled, it's going to be 8, or it's 4, or 6 rather. Just hard play from hand. Not the best card. Super flavorful because it's a bunch of weak way pirates. What more could you want? And really, a forever unit that costs 8 out of your resource row is not the worst thing in the world. It's totally fine in this deck. Wampa, 1-of. Another great target for those experience tokens because it has Overwhelm. And 3 weak way pirate gangs. Nice card, can ambush for 4 out of the resource row, so actually fairly flexible and not too bad in this deck. At the 5 drops, we have 1 Discerning Veteran, and then to round out the top of our ground unit curve, we have 2 Pirate Battle Tanks. So when you count them up, we have 3, 4, 5, 8, 11, 12, 13 smuggle ground units, which is a little less than or a little more than half of our total ground units. If you kind of study these units, you'll notice that, aside from the battle tank, which is quite chunky, most of these units are on the flimsier side. That's an intentional balance decision because of the amount of experience that we can generate. I mean, really, by mid-game, you're going to be getting an experience token every single turn. So had to kind of find a way to keep that in check without becoming super, super overpowering. But it creates some really fun and dynamic gameplay to buff up one of your Ruthless Assassins or your Wampa, or get a crazy strong weak stowaway bird, or defend your Discerning Veteran by continuing to dump experience counters on it after it's captured a key unit, right? Lots of play in these units, which is something I'm always trying to build. I don't want things to just be, super, super straightforward in a game. Moving on to space. I really like the space suite in this deck. We have 3 collection Starhoppers, which are just fantastic with Hondo. They smuggle for 3, which is a discounted smuggle. So with the experience, you're getting a 3/3 spaceship out of the resource row, or a 2/2 spaceship and a free experience somewhere for 3, which is great value. I also run 2 mercenary gunships. Was really working hard to find a slot for these guys in one of my battle box decks, and they really, really fit here. It feels like the Hondo is the absolute right home for a spaceship that can be stolen and stolen back and stolen again and stolen back. And sometimes mid to late game, that's kind of what the turns devolve into. And that's totally fine with me. I love that kind of gameplay exists in the battle box meta. And, on its own, this is actually quite a strong card. So don't sleep on it. Very good. But you got to be real careful with buffing it up, because you might just be giving your opponent a sweet toy to play with. 1 Black Sun Starfighter, and then 2 Outlaw Corona. Overstated unit for cheap. A great unit to buff, but quite dangerous if they can kill it. And I do believe lore-wise, this is Hondo's capital ship. So totally fits with the vibe of the deck. Moving on to the upgrades. We have 2 Armed to the Teeth. Great card in the deck. Smuggle card. Hondo's on the art. Adds a ton of power to the board and can kind of compensate for the fact and help cover the weakness that deck can have of having somewhat flimsy units. This 1 card can add effectively 5 power to the board because of the experience token you get out of Hondo. I also play for ramp. 3 price on your heads. While the units in this deck are fairly cheap, the smuggle costs are not. So this is a very resource hungry deck and needed some ramp. And this is certainly the card of choice for this deck. And to the events. Got 3 Daring Raid, 2 Timely Interventions out of the smuggles, 2 Detention Block Rescues, a Moment of Glory, 2 Take Captives, a Bravado, and a Choose Sides. There is a little bit more removal here than I typically play. I count here 7 pieces of hard removal. Hard. If you count Daring Raid as hard removal. And Choose Sides can be flexible removal as well. This deck really needs to have a flexible game plan, be able to handle some threats as they're faced, because sometimes you just find yourself in a situation where your units are too weak to handle the threat at hand and you need some time to build them up. Bravado is a super, super cool card, and Hondo's full of bravado, so that goes in for theme. And it's actually can be quite powerful and synergistic in a deck that can kind of go tall by putting experience counters on one unit to buff that unit up to a very high strength, and then attack twice with it in one turn unexpectedly. And choose sides is a nice way to, you can trade one of your cheapo. Nothing feels better than giving them a Guavion antagonizer with a nice little bounty on it in exchange for, their ATST or Giant Walker or something like that, which is a total Hondo move and is tricky and sneaky and lots of fun. This is a flexible deck. It's kind of a grindy, slow mid-range deck, but it can certainly, be flexible in its speed, flexible in its approach, and has some really cool plays up its sleeve. So that's the deck in a nutshell, or a few nutshells. I appreciate your time. Next week, I am coming in with, oops, sorry for the bump there, Hunter. I think I found a deck that works quite well with him and his abilities and limitations, so look forward to sharing that with you soon. Please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all the support and encouragement that I've received on these videos. It means a lot, and I very much look forward to coming back soon to talk about Hunter. So until then, take care.